Ladies and gentlemen and councillors, thank you very much for coming to our meeting on the 1st of November. I'll call the meeting to order. Introduction. In the event of an emergency, the building may be evacuated. You'll be required to vacate the building by the rear entrance and gather at the breezeway between the library and the art gallery buildings. This is council's designated emergency muster point. Under no circumstances is anyone permitted to re-enter the building until all clear has been given the area deemed safe by authorised personnel. In the event of an evacuation, a member of council staff will assist any member of the public with a disability to vacate the building. Item 1.1 is apologies for absence.
Duffy.
Could I have a mover, please? Seconder? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Recommendations for councillors attending via Zoom, and I understand we've got Councillor Melanie McDonald by Zoom. Hello, Mel. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Mallard, seconded by Councillor Floyd. All in favour? Against? Carried. Move on to 1.2, which is live stream and recording. This council meeting is being live streamed and recorded. By speaking at the council meeting, you agree to be live streamed and recorded. Please ensure that if and when you speak at this council meeting that you ensure you are respectful to others and use appropriate language at all times. Orange City Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this meeting. A recording of this council meeting will be made for administration purposes. Item 1.3, which is acknowledgement of country. I would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of the land. I would also like to pay respect to the elders both past and present of the Wiradjuri Nation and extend that respect to other Aboriginal Australians who are present. Item 1.4, declarations of interest. Does any councillor have a declaration of interest? Councillor Kinghorn.
I do in the Planning and Development Committee, so items 2.4 and 2.5, the ones relating to 103 Prince Street. I've put in a submission for this, so I don't think it's appropriate for me to vote on it.
Thank you. Councillor Greenhalgh.
Mine is the same as Councillor Kinghorn's, item 2.4 and 2.5, the DA for 103 Prince Street with Mars Group, as they're a sponsor of Bloomfield Junior Rugby League Football Club, which I am secretary of and sponsorship coordinator.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll declare a significant non-recurring interest in item 2.2 of the Planning and Development Committee relating to the helipad at 360 Phoenix Mine Road, as the applicant's a B2B customer of my business.
Councillor Floyd.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to say that I have a pecuniary interest in the Finance Policy Committee meeting agenda, item 2.2, small donations and grants, item 1A and 1B in that one, as Newcrest Mining is my employer and I shall be leaving the room for those two.
Thanks, Councillor Floyd. Any others? There being no others. Item 1.5 is the opening prayer, and we welcome Bernadette Collins from Shalom House of Prayer and ask that she lead us in the opening prayer.
Thank you for inviting me. Dear Lord, we pray for wisdom, understanding and courage to do what is right and just for all our citizens. Quieten our egos and help us to put the interests of others above our own. May we act with love for the common good. In Christ's name, amen.
I'll adjourn the council meeting for the conduct of the open forum, and we have one speaker, which is Nick Chevali, and he's speaking on PDC item 2.4 and 2.5. You're going to stay in the room, Francis, and that's... Yep.
You can, absolutely.
Thanks, Nick. You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for giving me...
sorry, I'll just introduce the councillors. Councillor Whitten, Councillor Greenhalgh, Councillor McDonald, who's on Zoom, Deputy Mayor Councillor Powell, Councillor Mallard, Councillor Peterson, Councillor Floyd, Councillor Evans, Councillor Kinghorn and Councillor Maletta. Thank you.
Thanks for giving me time to speak tonight. I won't take up too much time. As you mentioned, I'm Nicholas Chevali. I'm from Mars Group, and we are the applicant on 103 Mars Street. 103 Prince Street, sorry. And me speaking tonight is really too much for me to say. I just wanted to provide some context and background, I guess, to the plans that were submitted. So as you probably know, we exchanged on the site from council back in September last year. And then from the time from exchange through to us submitting our DA, we've worked on developing some plans that we've now submitted to council. And we worked in good faith with some senior planners in council to get to a design that we thought that we were fairly happy with on both sides. There's a DCP to the site, and it's a residential flat building, which is fairly unique to Orange. So we worked through a few issues that arose, and as I said, we've put plans in that we thought we were sort of fairly happy with. Unfortunately, some of the issues that we had worked to resolve, particularly around the DCP, have sort of come back up once we've submitted formally the DA and it's gone to independent planner and gone back through various layers in planning in council. But I really want to reiterate that despite all of this, we're still committed to the project and we're committed to getting an great outcome for the current and future residents of Orange. And we are happy to continue working with council to ensure that we deliver a great project. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Nick. I'll reopen the council meeting. Item 2.1, which is the Central West New South Wales Joint Board Report. Could I have it's a Merrill Mill, we don't have to move, do we?
Correct, you can just talk.
So that was a very important meeting that we attended at Parliament House. We had speakers from the opposition and also speakers from the current government. Obviously with the election in March, they were pretty keen to tell us what's going on and what they're going to do into the future. But it was great to hear some of the questions from the other mayors and other council, local government. You know, there's a few that are facing some flood problems at the moment, and they were pretty keen to hear from the government about what assistance, and that assistance has come. And it was very, very knowledgeable from my part. Did you want to add anything, Mr. CEO?
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head. It was good to meet the Labor politicians, I think. Certainly there's a learning curve there, I think, we were talking about.
Yeah.
Should they get in?
And as part of that, there's also the statistical snapshot, which is on your desk, which there's a lot of stats there, which are pretty interesting and gives us a lot of insight into Orange and the actual, the whole region anyway. Anyway, I'll move on to item... Need it moving for noting or anything like that?
Don't believe that from a mayoral.
3.1 is confirmations of the minutes of the previous meeting. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Greenhouse, seconded by Councillor Peterson. Any speakers?
I have a matter arising from that in relation to the Lord's Place South changes. There's been a lot of discussion, less than positive, since that meeting, and I was just... I thought we should just put it out there that the week before the meeting, we had a councillor briefing where we were told what would happen if the motion was passed, and that was that the work would start straight away and that it would be done at night to try and minimise the impact on the businesses. And we were also told that if it wasn't passed, then there might be a risk that we'd lose the grant, but they would try and move it to something else. So a lot of the commentary that's come has been about this in the dead of night, murdering trees in the dark, and I just thought that we should make it public, that we actually anybody who was at the briefing knew about it beforehand, and it's in that context it's actually quite sensible and logical to do it at night to try and minimise the impact on business, and there's nothing dodgy about it, but if people don't know that, if we haven't communicated that well enough to the public, then it does look dodgy, and you can see why even I don't care about the unpleasable trolls, but the rational, intelligent, normal, nice people also think that it seems a bit dodgy because that's what they've been told. So I just think we need to get it out there, and I don't know that we've obviously communicated that well enough at the time. And I'm concerned about that. With every motion, there's this thing, further considerations, about considerations being given to the recommendations' impact on council's service delivery, image and reputation, political, environmental, health and safety, employees. And I just wonder whether that actually was given enough consideration for that particular item. There have been councillors who've been accused of corruption and all sorts of things. And, well, I didn't vote for the thing, and I don't necessarily agree that it was the right decision, but I do think that everybody who voted did it based on what they thought was best for Orange, and I don't think there's any evidence of any corruption or inappropriate collusion or anything like that, and I just thought that we should get that out there.
Thanks, Councillor King.
Can I just ask a point of clarification through you, Mr Mayor, to the CEO? What are the rules, Mr CEO, regarding once a decision's made and other councillors all come out and criticise the voting of the councillors who supported it?
Mr Chair, if you don't mind, Councillor, I'd prefer to talk in close to you about that, because I think the potential to cross a line in that discussion is too high. It's the freedom of speech versus the code of conduct. Potential for bringing council into disrepute is the issue at hand. But I'd prefer to talk specifics with you and perhaps brief council further on the code of conduct.
Thank you. I understand the potential risk to the reputation of the council, but my concern is also the reputation of the risk of the councillors who made a decision based on information provided to them in the best interest they could, taking into consideration all the relevant heads of concern. So thank you for that. I'll look forward to hearing from you.
Just a matter arising on that same subject, Mr Mayor. I think it's very important to recognise that briefing sessions aren't gazetted on the public record. They are very valuable. But I think what was remiss was that on the night in the chamber for public record, it was not mentioned that those things would happen. Councillor Kinghorn is exactly right. Of those things. But for the community at large and for those sitting in the gallery and for the media, it wasn't mentioned. So for public record, anything that's done in briefing sessions needs to also be ratified in this chamber. Briefing sessions are not a recognised policy making or decision. They're briefing sessions. We don't make decisions. We as councils make those decisions. Because you can't vote briefing session. I'd like to make that clear. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Witt. Excuse me. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, the council will now adjourn for the policy meetings. I'll call on Councillor Witten to conduct the planning and development.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to open the Planning and Development Committee meeting on November 1, 2022, with the time being around 15 minutes to 7. I'll move on. We understand that some councillors have pecuniary interests in certain matters, 2.4, 2.2, I believe, and 2.5. I'll move on to Section 2, Item 2.1, items approved under delegated authority of council. Do I have a mover? Been moved by Councillor Greenhalgh, seconded by Councillor Lloyd. Discussion on this matter? Discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Motion's been carried. Item 2.2, a development application DA140, helipad. Sorry, I'll wait for Councillor Evans to leave the chamber. Alrighty, 2.2, a development application 140 helipad, 360 Phoenix Mine Road.
I'll move it, Mr. Chair.
Been moved by Councillor Hamling, seconded by Councillor Floyd. Any discussion on this item? Being no discussion, I'll put the motion. Show of hands, all in favour. Against, the motion has been carried unanimously. I'll wait for the Director to bring Councillor Evans into the room. Okay, item 2.3 is development application DA 403, 157 Listerfield Road. It's been moved by Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Peterson has seconded it. Any discussion on this item? Been no discussion. Sorry, Councillor Peterson.
Yeah, through you, I just had 3 questions for the relevant director that I had sent earlier in the day.
Certainly.
I wanted to ask 163 additional houses in Shirley. Wanted to ask about the access roads, just thinking about North Orange could sometimes be in busy time periods. It just doesn't seem that the access roads are adequate to the numbers, so just wanted to know about that. You'd like me to tell, or I'll tell the other 2 questions. The other one was to ask if there's any way for a bike path or footpath from Shirley to the hospital, given such a big employer and that lovely horse tracker takes you on a roundabout route. And the third one was just on page 76, where it said that the footpaths on the sides of both streets, which is fantastic. Wanted to know if that applied to all of the streets in the subdivision. Paths are so good. Not always there.
That's correct. So generally, I just can't recall whether the footpaths are both sides of the street or one side of the street only.
There's
in
both,
some of the,
but just every road, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not too sure whether there's some of the classes of roads that actually steps down. And one for some of the access streets, it might only be on one side. But certainly, if I can answer the first one first, and that's the access roads that will service the Shirley subdivision. The Southern Feeder Road will be one of those roads that is extended from Anson Street through to Shirley and will eventually link up with the Pinnacle Road at some stage further north, right around to the end. So Southern Feeder Road will be a fantastic access for them. They also have access to the north and to the south via the Pinnacle Road, to the north, where most of the traffic, I would assume, would be either going or to the hospital area, north into the CBD area via Woodward Street. Shirley Road becomes Woodward Street as it goes over the railway line. Part of the contract that we're in final stages of negotiation with includes an upgrade of that Shirley Road from the Southern Feeder Road, Wood Street, and over the railway line. And then there are some other minor links where you have crossings across the railway line and into that area. But they will all help to provide access into Shirley master plan subdivision. So there's a hierarchy of streets within Shirley as well. As far as footpaths goes, there's an extensive footpath network within the Shirley subdivision that is funded by the developer and the developer contributions. Part of their requirements, they have to build a footpath on their road frontage. As far as a trunk footpath network, there will be linkages into Council's trunk footpath network along the Southern Feeder Road back into the major systems, particularly the one that runs the back of James Sheehan and follows that creek system all the way back in.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Does that answer your question, Councillor Peters?
It's not unlikely to be one. I imagine it's probably DPI land or something from Shirley direct across to hospital, like that horse path and then down. Alekeen Lane and the like.
Yeah, at the moment, council doesn't control all of the land between Forest Road and the Shirley development. A lot of it is owned and managed by DPI, and they will. That land's under their control.
If ever was an opportunity, I'm sure it would be of interest.
There would be, yeah. I think there has been a proposal at one stage to subdivide some of that land up, and that was the case. There'd certainly be a link into the hospital at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Crennan.
Thank you, through the chair.
Councillor Mulder.
To the Director, anecdotally, obviously connectivity is an important part of any new subdivision. With regards to bus routes, are you able to indicate approximately how long after the subdivision eventuates residents of there could expect to see the bus routes going through that area?
It's a matter with Transport for New South Wales, of course, but I believe there's already a school bus route that runs through that area. And then as far as a community bus route, I'd have to take that on notice and just double check where the current plan runs, but I am aware that there are some proposed bus routes through the area.
Thank you.
Councillor McDonald, did you have your hand up? No? No? Good. Don't want to miss you. Mr. Councillor Mallard. Yep.
Chair, just to say, yeah, it's happy to support the proposal and good to see it's a very significant subdivision in the Shirley estate, but one that's quite consistent with the master plan that was set out for the area, and that it's going to deliver a good mix of lots and some compact lots. So we'll see some different types of housing coming through there, and also retaining the native vegetation such as it is down in the area as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Mallard. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. We move on to items 2.4. I believe we have Kinghorn and Greenhalgh will leave the chamber due to disclosure. Alrighty, item 2.4, development application DA91, voluntary planning agreement, 3 Prince Street. I have a mover. Moved by Councillor Miletto, seconded by Councillor Powell. Any discussion on this item? Being no discussion, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 2.5, just confirming that those two councillors are still as well. They are.
Yes, they are. Yep.
Item 2.5, development application DA98, which is the 103 Prince Street. Do I have a mover? Councillor Miletto has moved the motion. It's been seconded by Councillor Mallard. Any discussion on this item? Being no discussion, Councillor Peterson. Sorry. Councillor McDonald, I'll let Councillor Peterson go first, and then I'll ask you to speak if that's okay.
Only, and this might be something to discuss later on in the evening. We received some briefings earlier about a dispute over costs and rubbish and the like between council, and just wanted an update how that had been going.
Yeah, I'll let the CEO answer
Through
that
you,
question.
Mr. Chair, we'll prefer to do that in close. Thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry, there's a bit of a delay, so when I speak up here, it takes a while for you to hear it. So sorry if it sounds like I'm interrupting. Just on point 2 of the recommendation, where it says that we determine whether or not we're going to make a submission, is that something we're going to discuss now before we vote on the motion, or we've already voted on it?
So that is totally up to the chamber to discuss now, should you need to. So I just want to make it clear to the councillors that council are the applicant. So, and it has been dealt with by an independent assessor who then provides that report back to the WRPP. The WRPP are the decision-making instrument, not council. So we're simply dealing with these motions as printed, to then pass on to the panel to make their decision based on their thoughts about the application. But carry on, Councillor McDonald.
Mr. Chair, can I propose then that Council writes to the WRPP with the recommendation based on the independent planner recommendations? Because I note that there are some.
I'll just stop you there, if I may, Councillor McDonald. So you'll need to move an amendment to the existing motion, because the existing motion doesn't, I don't believe, that it has a point in there. So you'll need to move an amendment to add that or change the points within the existing recommendation that's been moved by Councillor Miletto. So,
okay, I'd like to move an amendment then, please.
I'll second that amendment.
So we have an amendment that you wish to just add point 4 to the 3 points. Let me read them first. Make sure we're not doing it a direct negative or anything like that. Yeah.
There's 2 points, so it'll be point 3.
I've got the planning agreement. Yeah. That's point 3. Sorry.
Yep,
yeah.
3.
My apologies, Councillor McDonald. Point 3.
Correct.
That council makes us.
Yeah.
To the panel.
Can I just ask a question, Mr. Chair?
I'll just get a clarification from the CEO first about, because point 2 does say the council will determine whether or not to make a submission upon the application. And we've moved a motion that basically points 1 and 2, Councillor Miletto.
Correct.
And now Councillor McDonald is now raising a relevant point, which may not need to be an amendment, because it is exactly there saying the council will determine whether or not to make a submission.
Whether or not, I think, Mr. Chair, it might be good to start again, perhaps, and that clears that point too, and then we might not have an amendment. We might just have a starting motion.
Yeah, well, it's how you fit 2 into the debate, Mr. CEO.
That's right.
I'm just trying to figure out the mechanics here.
Let's think. Or you do item 1 and then you do item 2.
So going back to the motion mover. Councillor Miletto, would you be agreeable if we were to deal with item 1 and then we move on and deal with item 2? How do you, I'll leave it to you because you are the motion mover and I've accepted it, okay?
I'm happy to deal with them separately.
Okay. Seconder, Councillor Powell, you seconded that motion. Are you happy to deal with them separately? Righto. So I'm first going to I'm going to put to the chamber that we deal with the 2 items separately because we have a mover and a seconder to do that. We all understand where I'm going with this? Okay. So I'll put to the chamber that we deal with item 1 and item 2 separately. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We'll move on to, I need a mover for item 1. We move by Councillor Miletto, seconded by Councillor Floyd. Is there firstly any discussion on item 1? No discussion? All righty, I'll put that motion first. All those in favour? Against? Item 1's carried. Okay, we now move on to item 2. Does council wish to determine, do we wish to put a submission for this application, and what do we propose to put in that submission? Do I have a mover on that, please?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that council does put a submission in covering the recommendations made by the independent consultant planner. Please.
I'll second that.
Yeah. It's been moved and seconded that council the submission to the WRPP basically supports the recommendations of the independent assessor.
Correct.
Councillor, okay.
Councillors, that is motion 2.
Yep.
Can be amended or not.
All right, we all understand where we're going with that one? Okay, good.
Point of clarification, please, Mr. Chair.
Certainly, Councillor Liddell.
So the only change to point 2 is including the word positive. Is that what you're saying?
Not really that, because it's not in there. It's saying the council determine whether or not it makes a submission. The motion is now to make a submission.
So what's it? So
That's supporting the recommendations of the independent assessor.
supporting. Okay.
Yep.
The positive, obviously, but
So
I guess the only change is the word needing to be included is supportive.
I think, can I, Mr. Chair, read it out just so
Please do.
Ms. Constantine and I think that number 2, motion, base motion now, says that council makes a submission upon this application to the Western Region Planning Panel in line with the recommendations of the independent planner.
Councillor McDonald's got a thumbs up. Councillor Mallard is a seconder.
Could I just ask a question, please?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor.
That is the base motion 2.
Would the planning panel already have this independent planning assessment as part of their recommendation?
Mr. Hodges?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, it's correct. It's the assessment report, independent assessment report's been lodged on the planning portal, so the panel have access to that document by the independent planning. Oh. Thank you.
All righty. We know where we all are. Discussion?
Can I speak to it, please, Mr. Chair?
Certainly, Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, a lot of work was done by the previous council in terms of the DCP for this site. It wasn't that long ago, and I appreciate that the applicant has worked in good faith with council staff. I understand the need that it was a good idea to engage an independent assessor. I just think it's really important that we stick with these DCPs when we put a lot of work into them. When there's no real justification for deviating so far, I think it's really important that we stick to them. And I think it's important that we as a council advocate that to the panel by putting a submission to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald.
Could I just say, I just want to,
Councillor Hamling.
I don't know whether part of the exhibition, I'm supportive of this sort of medium density housing in the CBD, and I just hope that the applicant and the Western Region Planning Panel can come to some sort of arrangement with what the independent person has come to, so we can get a positive outcome, because that's this sort of housing in Orange. It's becoming a major regional centre. Not everyone wants a 4-bedroom house with lawns and lots of acreage. They want inner city living with apartment style buildings. So I think I just hope that the Western Region Planning Panel and the applicant could come to some sort of agreement that this goes to where it should be.
Thank you, Councillor Hamling. Councillor Mallard.
God, what's going on?
Chair, just speaking in support of the motion, obviously, and completely agree with the Mayor that that's the outcome I hope to see out of this as well. There's a lot of good in this design and this housing opportunity that it is really positive to see, and I'm really glad that we've had Mars represented here again tonight and indicating that they do want to work constructively on where things go from here. But I do think that the planning report has identified some significant issues that redesign could look to address. I want to acknowledge, and I didn't expect him to be in the room here, the Manager of City Presentations comments and the Council's Heritage Advisor as well that have been picked up in the report in terms of the loss of trees that don't need to be lost if there's an appropriate redesign, as well as the bulk and scale issues. So I think this is a really good opportunity. I think I'll make sure I mention something that I've said in public before. The real missed opportunity with this is that there's no social or affordable housing going to be delivered in this, and it's all going to be expensive private market housing. That was something, obviously, that ship sailed with the previous council. I'm really glad with our last meeting with Woodward Street that the new council's started looking at different ways of approaching that, although I don't think we're ever going to have a block like this again. But yeah, I do think making a submission that's supportive, yes, they'll have this planning assessment, but I think as council, it's important for us to indicate that we think when you've got a really significant development like this, it's important to make sure that we get the design of it right, so that it fits with the heritage character of the area, so that it preserves as much as possible while also delivering the sort of housing that we need and want to see. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Mallard. Any further speakers? Look, I'll speak again, fully supportive of the Mayor's comments and certainly Councillor Mallard's comments that we're not unusual like any other city at the moment. We are in desperate need of this type of development. But as the applicant, all of this decision-making process is certainly not ours. And submissions have closed other than us as a council making comment in this forum. So without any further ado, I'll put this motion forward. All in favour? Against, the motion is carried. I'll ask that the councillors be brought back in the chamber. Yep. Alrighty, that brings the Planning and Development Committee closed. You're at about 9 minutes past 7, and I'll invite Councillor Evans to chair the Infrastructure Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitten. I'll open the Infrastructure Policy Committee the 1st of November 2022 at the time being about 10 past 7. I don't believe there were any pecuniary interests raised earlier. Any to be raised now?
Yeah.
Councillor Floyd?
Yeah, it was item 2.2.
No, that's fine.
Or is that the... Oh, sorry.
We don't let Councillor Evans.
I'm channeling the councillor that's usually sitting next to me.
Thank you, Councillor Floyd. No declarations of interest. I'll move on to item 2.1, the minutes of the City of Orange Traffic Committee. Moved by Councillor Miletto. A seconder?
Why not?
Councillor Greenhouse, thank you. I'll speak to this motion to start with, particularly the Orange Cyclone Triathlon point. I think it's really great. We're going to get back into some summer sport after a few years off, and it stops raining for 5 minutes. We might actually play some sport. But I'm looking forward to it kicking off, and I think coming into the warmer months where we're going to have a few more people walking, running and cycling on our local roads, that we should encourage all our road users to be aware and respectful of the other people using this sort of shared space over the warmer months. In saying that, I was wondering, now that we've got the location and dates for some of these events, if we may be able to publicise that to our own comms so people are aware of where there's going to be a build-up of people not in cars, so that people going through that area can either avoid it or take a different route, if that's possible. Any other comments?
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Chair. Those events, what you're talking about, plan which has to be submitted to the Traffic Committee, which is endorsed by Council and the police, and and the like, so they're well aware of the challenges which they face. Hence the reason there is other means taken to divert traffic around those areas to look after the safety of the cyclists and runners or whatever they are.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Mileto. Any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think the one we have to probably publicise is 3.5, which is Santa coming. I think hopefully he can get here during the wet, and we can let everyone know that that's happening. I've just got a question, just a matter arising. I just want to ask the traffic committee where we're up to with the bus zone, the no stopping zone up the front of James Sheehan. I know we put a no stopping zone in halfway down, and I think there was a bit of a call to extend it down to the bridge in Anson Street. Can someone answer that? You can take it on notice if you don't know.
Thank you, Director Greenham.
Oh, I didn't want him to walk up there.
Councillor Floyd.
If I knew there was something I had to say with this one. Yeah, look, I'd just like to make an amendment, please, if I could, to item 3.7 here, the Lords Place South proposed parking zone. It says in the to review after 12 months how the parking is going down there. Could I possibly make an amendment to that, please, and make that review on a 6-monthly basis, not a 12-monthly basis, just around the fact that it would give us some time to see what issues may be arising there and help address those issues a bit quicker.
Happy to second that motion. Any other comments on it? Minutes of the Traffic Committee, yes.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Point of order, sorry, Mr. Matter arising.
It's got to go back to traffic.
Okay, yeah. Well, could I make that a matter arising then? Yeah, if we can do it that way.
So we'll move on with the
you.
motion as printed. Any other comments? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Yep, beautiful. Unanimous. Move on to item 2.2, which is the minutes of the Floodplain Risk Management Committee on page 117.
I'll move that, Mr. Chair.
Second it.
From Mayor Hamling and Councillor Whitten. Any comments on the recommendation?
No, just have a matter arising now, Mr. Chair.
Hello.
So probably pertinent to with when we're talking about floodplain management is just thank the numerous volunteers. I was out this morning on the roads, and whether it was council staff, RMS or whatever, there's SES, all volunteers are out there cleaning debris off the road. There's people fixing potholes. I went over to Parks this morning, and from the time I left Orange, there was people all along the way trying to make those roads safer. So I just think that it's important that as a council that we acknowledge hard work of whether it's council staff, not only in Orange, Cabon, Parks, but all over the place. And like I said, there was SES workers out there moving trees off the road branches so we could have a safe as path of travel as we can. So I just think it's fantastic. And it was raining on the way, and they were still out there with their coats on, filling potholes and making those roads as safe as we could. So I just like to thank them for their efforts.
Thank you, Councillor Mileto. I certainly agree with your comments.
Yeah.
Other comments on the floodplain risk management? Being none, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Unanimous. Thanking you. We'll move on to item 3.1 on page 131, the General Works Report. Thank you, Councillor Whitten.
I'll second it.
Councillor Mallard, thank you. Any comments on the current works?
Mr. Chair, just a question. Thank you. Just a question regarding on page 139, the graph there showing energy usage. I was just wondering whether we have any idea of why there was such a spike in 2020, especially through the first 3 quarters of that year compared to previous years and subsequent years.
Director Greenham.
Thank you. The main reason is 2020 is the 2019-2020 year. Sorry, no, it's not. It's the 2020-2021 year. During that period, we were coming out of the drought and we were operating all systems. So water, when we're pumping it from the Macquarie or whether we're pumping it from our stormwater harvesting scheme, uses a significant amount of water. So for the first time in a while, it was available with flows in January of 2020. And from then on, it was all systems on until we actually recovered into a full supply status. So that would be the main reason for the spike in the energy usage. The water was available to pump finally, flows in the system, but and we still weren't quite at a full dam status.
Excellent. Thank you.
Where we are now.
Any other comments on the current works report? Councillor Greenhalgh.
Could I just have a matter arising? And I don't know if the director will be able to answer this, but we do see, I've noticed quite a lot of, and you've probably got it in the works report somewhere when it's due to happen, the footpath down along Bathurst Road as you sort of get towards Canobolas Caravan and Marine and so forth, it gets quite narrow there, and I see a lot of disabled people in wheelchairs and in gophers and stuff that tend to be just going down the highway rather than using the footpath. And I'm wondering if that's because it is so narrow or it is really unstable. So I was wondering if we could just have a look at that.
Yeah, certainly I'll take that on notice and have a look at it. Generally, our narrowest footpaths are 1.2 metres, but whether the grass is encroached or something of that nature that's grown the footpath or something that's made it narrower and less accessible, certainly have a look at it.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Director.
The matter arising, Mr. Chairman. I suppose the thing that I'd like to point out from the conference that we went to on the weekend, the annual conference, that all councils, one of the major discussion points at that conference was the impact the rain is having on all road systems. So I know that's no comfort for the ratepayers of Orange who are dealing with road conditions at the moment, but it's every single individual across New South Wales at the moment. Even our city cousins were complaining about the quality of their roads, which when I drove on them on the way to the conference but I'm sure that they've got the odd pothole here and there. But I just wanted to relay that from the conference is that our staff are doing the best that they can under the circumstances that they're working in. As I say, I'll repeat it again, that's no comfort to the suffering driving on roads that are suffering from these weather conditions, but there's a major problem at the moment throughout not only New South Wales but other locations, and the Minister for Regional Roads has made available $50 million, and we all know that dollars isn't going to go a long way, especially when we get our portion, but it's better than nothing. So, and from that, question through you to the CEO, do we have any idea what our portion of that funding would be, Mr. CEO?
Just a back of the envelope calculation, I would think $156,000.
Thank you, Mr. CEO.
And I'd like to thank Director Greenham for that figure.
Thought I'd read that somewhere.
Yeah, it's $156,000 based on the errata of our road lengths.
Share with us in the chamber how that.
It's the length of our roads, in fact, and a pro rata figure against the $50 million ish.
Thank you, Councillor Miletto.
Point of clarification, Mr. Chair. Mr. CEO, since January this year, are you able to indicate how many potholes council have filled and how many remain outstanding that need filling?
I'm not, and I don't think Mr. Greenham would be, and we'd take that on notice. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no other comments on the current works report. The motion, all in favour? Councillor McDonald. Oh, yeah.
I'm still here, but I don't know where I am. I know where I am, but I can't see. Don't worry.
Concludes the Infrastructure Policy Committee, time being 7:20. I'll hand over to Councillor Mallard to conduct environmental sustainability policy. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Evans. I'd like to open the Environmental Sustainability Policy Committee meeting on the 1st of November with the time being 7:20 p.m. Does any councillor have any interest to declare? Being none, we'll move to item 2.1, minutes of the Parks, Trees and Waterways Community Committee of 8th of September. There's a recommendation on page 5. Do I have a mover for that one? Councillor Kinghorn, seconded Councillor Peterson. Is there any discussion on this item? Being no discussion, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against?
Sorry.
Sorry, Councillor McDonald.
Sorry, I'm voting for, in case you can't see.
Got you, thanks.
Just a question through you, Mr. Chairman, to the CEO. What's the damage after the last few days? Just with loss of trees, do we have a full picture yet? Or are we not right across it? I know I saw a couple of...
We lost one. Yeah. Mr. Chair, we've lost lots and bits and pieces, but I think the most significant was a large elm in Cook Park, which fell onto Clinton and Kite, and then there was a large elm also, Mr. Hobden, from Wade Park onto Peasley, and various others. And I'm sure more will go, I think, given the conditions and the wind.
Why is the community to stay away from trees at the moment? Okay, road where a tree fell on a car.
It will. I think we might look at that in comms. Good idea. Thank you, Councillor.
Really, Mr. Chair, just on the same point, are you able to advise if those trees were in poor health, or is it just the saturation of the ground and the root ball that gave way?
I think we should give Acting Director Hobden a go. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, thank you. I think I've exhausted my chemical engineering abilities.
Thank you. Yes, so no, the trees were in good health. They were all coming back into foliage, both the Elms tree in Cook Park and the one at Wade Park. We've also had about 30 customer requests come in about other tree matters across the city from that storm last night, and I suppose we'll expect similar again tonight if we do get snow, but the trees were in pretty good health. In inspecting them this morning, the ground around them is just absolutely saturated with that wind, and it's caused the trees to release from the ground.
How old were the trees?
Mr. Mayor, the trees in Cook Park would be somewhere between 80 and 100, and Wade Park would be not far off 80 odd years of age as well for those two.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Hobden. Any other out of that one? No? Then I'll move on to item 2.2, minutes of the Companion Animals Community Committee of 6th of October. There's a recommendation on page 21. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Evans. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Any discussion on this item? Councillor Evans.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just in relation to the bin and bag up in Shirley, I'd like to thank the Community Committee for their consideration of this item, and as we've approved that development up in Shirley, it is important to have those sorts of amenities up there as people move in and they're going to start using that spring track more often, so I think it's good to have. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Evans. Councillor Miletto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just with regards to a motion which I moved in council regarding dog dishes, just looking for the outcome of that. I don't seem to be able to see it.
So in the recommendation at 3.4.2, saying that council conduct an audit. This is on page 21.
Yep, I can see it now. Thank you.
Yeah, I know it was noted in the discussion in that committee that where these sorts of things can be placed, and bubblers as well, is obviously based on having the water infrastructure there already.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Might be a question for Mr. CEO through you, Mr. Chair. With the weather looking like it's going to start heating up quite soon, hopefully, is there any indication when that audit may take place?
I would then defer to Mr. Hodges under companion animals. There's an audit of dog water bowls under the companion animals. Council request for dog water bowls at bubblers in parks. We understand, Mr. Hodges, there's an audit going to happen. And the question is, when might that audit happen, therefore arriving at an outcome?
Mr. Chair, pretty sure that audit's been done already. I'm sure that the manager of Building and Environment reported to the committee the results of that audit and also the costs involved in structure with those, the dog bowls, the structure that was asked with your notice. I'll find that and I'll send it around in a council communique tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Hodges. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to comment on the the desexing program. We know at the local government conference, the CATS motions were free and flowing from all councils and not just country-based, city-based. I just want to make sure that we have plenty of publicity out there about our desexing program. And could you just give us a quick outlay of what it's about and how residents can go about accessing it, or someone? Thanks.
I can lead it,
but
if
get some publicity out.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah. So the cat desexing program has been running again. It's for concession holders. They can get a cat or kitten desexed, registered, and microchipped for $66. So basically, encourage anyone who knows someone who might be a concession card holder who's got a cat or kitten who they've been dealing with them breeding before, or if they've got a new one and you think they might need it, let them know that they can do that. They can come in and see the staff downstairs and find out about it, pay for it, and then that'll get them booked in at, I think it's Mulberry Lane Vet this time around doing the desexing. Councillor Greenhalgh.
Councillor Mallard, just a point of clarification. Is that capped at $5,000 or $10,000 we allocate to that per year?
It was allocated for $10,000 for this year. There was a recommendation out of the previous committee meeting. Yep.
And from past years, have we utilised all that? No?
No, I don't. I think we spent maybe about 8,000 and something is my memory of last year's report that we got. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Councillor Miletto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a point of clarification, as we know that generally when you have a litter of kittens, more than one, I'm just wondering, does this fee, is it only restricted to one cat per family, or if you've got several cats, can you get them all desexed?
I'm not sure if Mr. Hodges knows the answer to that for sure.
I'm just wondering if the amount isn't being totally utilised. Most cats have more than one kitten. If somebody wanted to keep more than one cat, are they able to get two cats desexed at the same price?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, off the top of my head, I don't know the answer to that. I'll take that on notice, email it to the councillors, and we'll make sure it's on our social media, just another run of that. We did do the social media run when we started the program, so we'll just find that same information and put it out there. Can't recall on the multiple animal desexing. Have to check that.
Thank you.
And I think just a comment, Chairman, based on the motion that was passed by the local government conference, and chat is still going on. I suppose we now have to move forward as a council to come up with a policy on how we deal with regarded as roaming and not homed. About how they're dealt with. I think that was the policy about euthanasia was the whole policy of that annual conference about the feral cats.
Yeah, so I think if I can comment, there were two types of motions on cats that had been put to the Local Government New South Wales conference, and one which included the one that this council agreed to put up was to a motion to amend the Companion Animals Act to allow councils to make a policy about cat containment, whether that's curfews or whether that's similar to the ACT in saying that cats have to either be indoors or in an enclosure at all times. At the moment, if we wanted to do that as a council, we can't do it. Those motions were all taken in the Category 2 motions at the conference, which was basically the Board of Local Government New South Wales said, this fits within our existing policy platform, we could already do this, and so we're not putting it up for debate on the floor, so it didn't actually get voted on. There was another contentious motion that I believe came out of Hornsby relating to recent changes that have put requirements on councils to attempt to rehome any cats or animals before euthanasing them, and that was quite contentious at the conference in terms of the animal welfare implications and pros and cons of those restrictions. So but at this point, I need to check because I know there were amendments to that motion, and so we'll have to see what came out of it. But at this point, council doesn't have capacity to set policies on restricting the free roaming of cats. Councillor Greenhalgh.
Councillor Mallard, I've just got another question that I saw in my notes. Just in the statistics there, you've got, the ones that are euthanased or unsuitable to be rehomed. What is the main reason that they're unsuitable for rehoming?
Mr. Hodges, take
Through you, Mr. Chair, question. Cats or dogs are we referring to the councillor?
Just both in general.
Both, okay. In relation to dogs, a bit easier. Even under legislation nowadays, just in the last 18 months, council is required to consult with 3 rehoming agencies before we euthanase an animal, and we have to actually keep them longer than used to. The proportion of rehoming for us has significantly increased, so we spend a lot of resource on making sure we do find alternative lodgings for the surrendered animals or rehomed animals. So we're going pretty well there. In terms of what we look at, so the dogs will be the temperament particularly, style, breed. Well, so there are some restricted breeds that you can't sell or give away, so wouldn't let them move. And also, and the same for in relation to the cats, it's often their health. All of the animals that we do get through are of poor health. We get them all vet checked at the time, and sometimes they have to be vet certified. But we use both rehoming agencies and also our local vet, Columbus Pet Hospital, to rehome a lot of the kittens.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Hodges. Any other discussion on this item? Having exhausted our discussion about cats once again, I will put the motion. All in favour? One against? Declare the motion carried. Which brings us to item 3.1, Central West Council's Environment and Waterways Alliance. There is a report from the CEO and a recommendation on page 37.
Mr. Chair.
Councillor Hamling, do I have a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Floyd. Any discussion on this item? There being none, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Anyone against? Very carried. And thanks, councillors. That concludes the Environmental Sustainability Policy Committee meeting, with the time being 7:34. I will call on Councillor Hamling, in the absence of Councillor Duffy, to conduct the Finance Policy Committee meeting.
Thanks, Councillor Mallard. I'll open the Finance Policy Committee meeting at 7:35. I'll call on item number 1 is declaration of interest. No one showed any at the start of the meeting. Is there any come up? Councillor Floyd, yep, you've got one for item 2.2.
2.2.
I'll move on to item 2.1, which is the quarterly budget review. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Kinghorn, seconded by Councillor Evans. Any speakers? Well, I will, because I think the good news, the really good news out of this is the list of initiatives that we workshopped and we all got to have a look at. And there's a few different ones that are in that list. So I think this is good news. We're talking about shade cloths, aquatic to expansion scoping, 200 more thousand into road patching, fish stocking. There's a number of items there. So I think this is a good news story out of this quarterly budget. Councillor Greenhalgh.
8 councillors, yep.
Just through you, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to make mention on page 11, the rates and charges collection. You can see that we've had an increase from 21% to 22.4%. So obviously people in our community are feeling the financial impacts and the increased cost of living. Do we put it out there enough for the pensioners and so forth? Are we communicating enough to our community for those rebates and so forth that they can receive? Or is there any way we can, have a look at the percentage of those and, is it the average family that are now struggling to pay these sort of fees and charges, I guess the question would be.
Mr Chair, I might take that on notice. You remember last time this was discussed, we undertook to do more comms on the pensioner rebates?
Yep.
We might take the second part of your question. Is there any analysis we can do about who's feeling the pinch on notice and then discuss it with you?
Perfect, thank you.
Any other speakers? Councillor Mallard.
Mr Mayor, yeah, and totally agree. Very exciting to see the funds that are going in the mini budget to some really important projects. I'm very pleased to see the funding for the affordable housing work and the policy work that we resolved back in June that we were going to do. Looking forward to seeing that drive forward after we have our housing summit soon, hopefully. And also the urban forest strategy, commend Councillor McDonald for the work she's done starting with the Parks, Trees and Waterways Community Committee on that area, and also shade cloths over playgrounds, which was something I think is really important in terms of making our play areas more ready for summer as well. I just wanted to ask in terms of the funds for fish stocking. I've got a question around. I've heard from the community concerns about and damage happening in the wetlands in areas like Ploughman's wetland from people who aren't necessarily fishing off the platforms that are there and available, and people wading in the wetlands, trampling reeds down and those sorts of things and damaging the environment. So I was wondering if there's any information about the extent of that and what sort of work's being done to sort of encourage responsible behaviour in terms of fishing in those sensitive areas.
Thank you through you, Mr Mayor. Thanks for the question. The main wetlands area that we've been suffering some damage is just where the kids people have been walking on the grass around the edge of the wetlands. This is the taller stuff. And so the Mayor and I actually met with the concerned members of the community, did a tour of the wetlands, and we agreed with that we'd put in some temporary fencing, which we've installed. We've had it there for about 2.5 months now, and we'll keep it there for 6 months in total, just to give the grass a bit of a chance to recover. And also we've got education signs on it now, just highlighting that it's a wildlife habitat or bird nesting area, so encourage that. One thing that we're pretty keen to promote, the fact is that it's a mixture of uses up there, so trying to highlight with different signage saying these are the areas we want to encourage you to use for the fishing and water activities, and the other areas highlighting the value of the breeding areas and more pristine areas. But there's a mixture across the board. So the other wetlands look pretty good. It's mainly Escort Way, but these things are a cycle. Come and go, and so we encourage the use. It's great that everyone's getting out there to look at it. So, but that's the approach we've done to date. I was up there on the weekend, had a look, and we've had a pretty good response out of that. So the restrictions are working well in those specific areas.
Thanks. Good to hear.
Mr. Chair, just to add to that, the Councillor Floyd and I have been working on the stocking specifically. I just think, Councillor Floyd, do you mind if I just elaborate a bit on that? We've had meetings with the Department of Fisheries. The idea of the $10,000 at the moment is to work with fisheries, find out what stocking they do across the LGA, and then build on it. I think it would be fair to say we're probably looking more at Gosling and the lake, the more specific fisheries, than throwing more fingerlings into the wetlands as such. I think that's fair to say, Councillor Floyd. You know, and fisheries are very interested in, particularly, say, turning Gosling into a prize fishery, or Lake Canobolas than doing the smaller sort of waterways.
Councillor Mileto.
It's a matter arising. Just with regards to the budget itself, obviously the last 12 months have been very challenging for council with regards to the impact on the budget, with potholes, repairing potholes, etc. I'm just wondering whether, through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, to the CEO, are you able to indicate how the budget in the last 12 months has been impacted in comparison to the previous 12 months with regards to fixing potholes? What sort of money were you looking at there?
Through you, Mr. Chair, either I'll take it on notice or give it to Mr. Greenham. The trouble with potholes at the moment is that we can't get out there to fix them because it's so damn wet. I'm not sure we can give a figure. Ian, would you care to comment? We've got 5 crews working at the moment, which is quite extraordinary for our normal workload.
You can't add too much more than what you've already indicated. What we did do last year was divert some of our money on would normally be used on drainage maintenance or that we couldn't get to because it was so wet, and use that. So it was in the same road maintenance budget, but we allocated money from one area to another area as far as so that we had money. We didn't have to actually come back and ask council for more money for pothole maintenance as such. What's ideal about the money that the Minister Sam Faraway has put forward, the $50 million, and it's $156,000 would be council's modest allocation of that based on our modest length of roads. The beauty of that is it represents a 12.5% increase on our current budget. So that's a significant increase, and rather than pulling money from other areas of our budget to help top up the pothole maintenance budget, we're hoping that this can see us through and certainly help us recover from what's predicted to be a fairly wet end of spring and early summer.
Thank you. I'm not quite sure whether you really answered the question or whether you understood it. Obviously, 12 months ago, we spent a certain amount of money just on potholes. Okay? So what I'm hearing is that we've had to take money from elsewhere because we haven't budgeted enough in this last 12 months. So what I'm interested to know is how much money have we taken from another fund to conduct those emergency repairs with regards to potholes in comparison to the previous 12 months?
Yeah, I can certainly take that on notice and give councillors information on that. But we certainly didn't have to come back and ask for more. It was within the same fund as such, but a different specific area of that fund.
Thank you.
Councillor Greenhalgh.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. And that was going to be my question was, so the 156K that we've been allocated, which is fantastic, is that going to touch the surface?
Absolutely. 12.5% is a significant increase on our funding.
Perfect. But we, like, in sort of around what Councillor Miletto is saying, so we don't sort of have a figure on how much of an increase we've had in potholes. Like, is it a 40% increase? Like,
Compared to a dry year, it's more than double.
yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Evans.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was going back to the mini budget and a couple of those exciting projects. I know that the Showground Society is going to be very excited to have some at least beginning structural works done on the agricultural pavilion so they don't have to put gazebos up inside of it next year. But going on to the Lucknow Curb and Guttering, I know the residents will be excited about that one. Just a question through you, Mr. Chair, is are you able to tell us if the 200K allocated is inclusive or in addition to the money coming out of the Lucknow Community Committee Fund?
Through you, Mr. Chair, my memory fails me. I will take that on notice and come back to you. Tomorrow we'll be doing press around all of these projects. We'll make sure we clarify that in the Lucknow press release, which the Lucknow specific councillors will get to work on.
So thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just another, I suppose, point of clarification. On page 8, where under the mini budget, where it's sort of listed what the projects are, it says Splash Park water filter 50,000. Is it? Are we buying a $50,000 water filter, or is it a typo, or is this part of the Splash Park project?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor McDonald, you recall that we did this mini budget project, and then separately the Stronger Community something fund came in, and the Splash Park was voted in as a project. And then once we'd started doing some technical work, we discovered we'd needed more money for some filtration equipment. So then the mini budget allocated the 50K for that. That was the combined project for the Splash Park.
Thank you, Mr. CEO.
There being no other speakers, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried. I'll move on to item 2.2, which Councillor Floyd will be leaving the room.
The matter arising, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Whether
Councillor Floyd come back in?
No. Well, just an update from Councillor Kinghorn, how she went in the Fashion in the Field today. Her fascinator is outstanding. I haven't seen one like that before.
What can I say?
How'd you go?
Move on to item 2. Oh, you happy with that response, Councillor? I'll move on to item 2.2, which is small donation and grants. Do we have a mover?
I'll move the recommendation, Mr.
Peterson's interest.
Councillor Peterson.
Could I move that we discuss each individually?
You happy to discuss individually, Councillor? Can I have a seconder? Councillor Peterson. All those in favour that we discuss these separately, put your... Yep, we're right. So do I need to bring... No, we're going to deal with 1A first and 1B. Yep. I'll deal with 1A, which is donate 4,000 or lesser amount of in-kind support to waive venue hire fees for Newcrest Cadia.
Recommendation, Mr.
Moved by Councillor Whitten, seconder by Councillor Evans. Any speakers? Councillor King.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just have a question. So in-kind support, so they're not paying the higher fees, does that still come out of the budget for general donations?
Through Mr. Chair, no. In fact, we don't account for that.
Okay. Thank you.
There being no other speakers, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Item 1B, I'll move that. Can I have a seconder? Second that. And I just want to, I think the CEO might want to send around an email or a survey or something that we can nominate the charity.
Yes, we discussed, didn't we, Mr. Mayor, that would probably be a really good method. Just did with those grants the other day.
So we all have whoever gets the most votes, the charity Councillor Greenhouse.
This is a better
Just a
method.
point of clarification. So while we're in the chamber, should we at least put a couple of
Options.
options forward?
Wasn't it
Otherwise, we
12?
could all be nominating for a different charity, and then it's just a draw, and we go, well, what do we do with it?
In your hands.
Okay.
Let's put it. Yeah, Councillor Maletta.
Could I suggest that we do that via email so we got the opportunity to think about it?
Can I ask a question?
You certainly can, Councillor Whitten.
We'll have a community chest, Mr.
Through you, Mr. Chair, no.
I do. I think we used to have a community chest. Then charities could write to the sea expressions of interest from the.
Does anyone have any idea what sort of money we're talking about? We have a ballpark?
Okay, through you, Mr. Chair, let's give it a good guess. Let's say I've been to these Newcrest days, and I reckon with children, you get a good 5,000 people through them. So let's go 5,000 by ones, 5,000, 5,000 by two, 10. Let's say $8,000.
Okay.
And there are generous people who throw a couple of coins in. Yeah, it's a good.
Okay, we'll do it. We'll do it by email.
Okay, I'll organise that.
May
next year.
Yep.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Can we have Councillor Floyd back into the room, please?
Mr. Chair, what was that? Do you want me to bring some information back on the community chest?
That'd be a great
and
idea.
how it
Thank
worked?
you, Mr.
Yeah, I'll do
CEO.
that for you.
I'll put item number 2, which is donate $1,000 to Anglicare Orange for their annual Christmas party in December for foster children and their carers.
I'll move that.
Councillor Mallard, seconded by Councillor Whitten. Any speakers? There being no speakers, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried. And item number 3 is donate $500 to the Canobolas High Rural, moved by Councillor Peterson, seconded by Councillor Greenhouse. Any speakers? Councillor Peterson.
Just a question to clarify. On page 25, it's assistance is a $500 donation to each of the 8 high schools. Totality 4,000, but this is just 500. Not sure of the discrepancy of that.
Director Rob, we're on page. What page are we on? To page 25.
Yeah, 23. Oh, 25 for the thing.
.25%, councillor. Each of
Mayor,
them.
just to clarify, so we have got an allocated amount of $500 for each of the 8 high schools. So each of the 8 high schools can come to us and ask for that $500. This is just for that one amount of $500 for. We have money for the rest, but they need to come and ask for it. Yeah.
Get the cat out of the bag now.
No, they'll all be lining up. Okay, can I have a mover for item number 3? Oh, sorry, I've got a mover. Can I put it to the vote? All in favour? Against? Carried. I'll bring the Finance Policy Committee to an end at 7:53, and I'll call on Councillor McDonald to run the Services Policy Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair and Mr. Mayor. I'll open the Services Policy Committee meeting at 7:53. Are there any declarations from any councillor for pecuniary interests, less than significant pecuniary interests, and all the other types? Nope. Excellent. Alrighty. So item 2.1, minutes of the NAIDOC week committee meeting of the 15th and 29th of September. Recommendation is on page 5, and I'm after a mover and a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Floyd.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Mallard. Any discussion on this item? Nope. Excellent. I'll put the motion on.
Councillor McDonald, sorry. Yeah, if I can just say, NAIDOC week is underway, and it was good to be at, unfortunately, not the street march and the Robertson Park for the opening ceremony, but it was a great event down at the function centre yesterday. And yeah, just want to commend the council staff and the community members and the organisations that are involved in delivering it. It's been fantastic to be part of it this year, and looking forward to more events through the week and the ball on Saturday night.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Mallard. Any other comments, discussions? Oh, sorry, I'm just allowing for the delay from me to you. All those in favour? Excellent. No one against it. Thank you. Item 2.2, minutes of the Spring Hill Community Committee meeting of 15th of September. Recommendation is on page 61. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Happy to move it.
Thank you, Councillor Miletto, seconded by Councillor Kinghorn. Any discussion? No, in that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Excellent. No one against. Motion's carried. Last but not least, item 3.1, Lake Canobolas Pump House Engineering Heritage Marker. Maker or marker?
Marker, Councillor.
Marker. I've got a typo on my thingy. Recommendations on page 76, and I'm after a mover and a seconder again, please. Thank you, Councillor Floyd. Thank you, Councillor Kinghorn. Any discussion? Alrighty, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Fantastic. Thank you. Alrighty, that concludes the Services Policy Committee meeting, with time being 7:56, and I'll hand back over to Councillor Hamling for the rest of the council meeting.
Thanks, Councillor McDonald. The council meeting now resumes. There's no notices of motion. I'll move on to general reports, which is 5.1 on page 33, Christmas and New Year recess.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thanks, Councillor Mallard. Seconder. Thanks, Councillor Greenhouse. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried. 5.2, which is the Christmas and New Year events. I have a mover.
I'd like to move the motion, Mr Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Whitten.
With an additive piece to the motion. I think it's a fantastic idea that we're going to have a Christmas tree in Orange this year. Very similar to that in Martin Place, probably not as... The sentiment is there. I would like to ask Chamber to consider whether we put a survey out to the community where they would like the tree located. Fun. I know we've got in here that we want to have it in the forecourt, but I'm all for putting it in Robertson Park. The ideal in Robertson Park, because we have a lot of visitors to the city who don't know anything about the forecourt. They're not going to venture around there. They're going to see Robertson Park with all the lights in Summer Street. So I think it'll be ideal to have a bit of fun and ask the community where they would put it.
It'll want to be a 4-week, 5-week, 6-week survey or something. Is that what you're asking? Is a survey on our your say?
Yeah. It's going to serve two purposes, right? It's going to involve the community, and it's going to make them aware that we're putting a Christmas tree.
I have a seconder.
Happy to second that.
Second that.
For discussion. I too, like you, I think it's great engagement with our community, and I envisage seeing it on the top of the museum roof, which makes it even higher. So I think we could, bigger is bolder, and you'll see it from the main street. So I think it's a fabulous idea, and I'm happy to support that.
Any other speakers? So Floyd.
Can we clarify?
Very quickly, Mr Mayor, I think with the time...
Sorry, I just wanted to clarify. Does that mean the motion is 1, that council endorsed, and 2, that the community be surveyed, as to the location? I did have a discussion earlier today about wind shear with Councillor Greenhouse.
Councillor Floyd.
Mr Mayor, just with the time frame, I think till Christmas, could we just make this maybe a 2-week time frame? 3 weeks tops. We need to get some results back ASAP from it. But but great idea.
Any other speakers? Councillor Peterson.
Just ask a question through you, Mr Chair. For event 4, New Year's Eve, with a combined light show and live music event. Obviously, in previous years and previous councils, it was fireworks. I wanted a bit of an update as new council, as a bit of a pros and cons, fireworks versus light show.
I could probably answer a little bit of that. Obviously, with the fireworks, you've got the added danger of fire restrictions, wind, and we used to have it out at Waratahs, but obviously that's all been built around, so some of the neighbours weren't too happy with it. With the lights, we can definitely put the show on. There's no, and obviously the environment with the fireworks as well.
Animals as well.
Yeah. So the lighting and the music show is an event that can definitely happen, and we're not worried about fire bans or anything like that.
Is there a cost difference? Really?
Yeah, mate, yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So traditionally, fireworks are less expensive than like a laser show. So a laser show is more expensive. But what we're proposing in this paper is actually a concert, a music concert with sort of light installations around the walls of the North Court. So it's already a sound and light spectacular, which would be combined into the of the New Year's Eve festival.
Thank you. Any other questions? I've got a quick one to Councillor Whitten. So whoever wins the survey, winner, and the tree goes up in that place, correct?
Survey's work, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. It was
That's the motion?
the CEO was just asked. That wasn't my question. The CEO.
Voting panels in the
Lord's Place South. It's going in Lord's Place South. Is there any?
Oh well,
Can I have a veto right?
I think the sensible would be to give them some options,
Yes.
multiple choice, right?
All right.
Robertson Park. Because I
Right.
think, if I may speak to it, Mr. Mayor,
Could we clarify those options tonight? That would be so good for me.
Robertson Park is the central point of our
One,
whole
Robertson.
precinct, right? People are going to come out, they're going to go there, they're going to go to restaurants, they're going to walk all the way over here.
One is Robertson Park.
Who's the forecourt?
Robertson Park, three's
yeah.
Robertson Park, four.
Three's on museum.
Yeah. Branch stacking.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, on a technical basis, I'm not sure we could do top of the museum given the wind shear design, Mr. Greenham.
Okay.
I'm looking at you as a fellow engineer. I don't think we could put it on safely on the museum roof this year.
We get a solar tree.
We can't do the museum. I'm so sorry. We'll definitely look at it for next year.
So there's two. Any others? Councillor
Vote for
Letter?
Robinson Park.
A question around safety. I mean, I'm not against Robinson Park. I'm just concerned that in the festive season, when people are rolling out of licensed premises, whether they might get excited by the sight of a Christmas tree and
Or the bauble. That's been up for a couple of years and hasn't been touched. I know
always
that
the first, Mr. Mayor.
plenty of people get photos with the bauble.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So yeah, that's I don't know. That's something we need to take into consideration. We've got two so far. That's Robinson Park and the forecourt.
How big's your backyard, Councillor Whitten?
But it's a long way for people to walk.
I'll throw in Cook Park as a
So how
as a
big? How
dark
big's
horse.
how big is the tree? We've got to figure
6 metres tall.
6 metres.
And probably therefore, I don't know, 4 metres diameter at the base. Probably 5 metre diameter base.
Has any other councillors got any other spots? Because we don't want to leave this too late because Christmas is upon us very soon.
Personally, I think that they're two logical
Okay.
choices for year one. Safe and
Righto.
logical choices.
I'll put the motion. All in favour?
Yes. I'm lobbying.
Carried.
Who? One or two?
I'll move on to item, I can't see because I haven't got my glasses. Item 5.3, which is the adoption of the council's organisational structure. Can I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Power, seconded by Councillor Floyd. Any speakers? There being no speakers, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Item 5.4, which is Code of Conduct reporting. Page 43. Can I have a mover?
Move it be acknowledged, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Power. Any speakers?
Only, Mr. Mayor, that's an interesting point down the bottom there that it cost the rape council $2,500 plus $2,800. So, and if you look at those figures there, there were two that actually those who there was no further action. So it cost $5,500. Oh well, 10.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure whether it's his microphone, but Councillor Whitten's very cutting in and out. I need a new mic. Sorry.
You're cutting in and out as well, so might be the technology.
Might be your end. Check.
I'll just make a comment. I know that at the local government conference, the code of conduct was brought up with both sides of politics committing to review and the code of conduct. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. That was both sides. If Labor or the coalition get in, they've said that they would review the code of conduct, which is, I think, is not before time. Okay, there being no other speakers, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried. I'll move on to item 5.5, which is expenses and facilities to councillors half yearly, noting that on the councillor copy, page 46, the total for Councillor Floyd is $1,510.
I'd like it to be 340, Mr. Mayor.
Can I have a mover? Moved by Councillor Power, seconded by Councillor Evans. Any speakers? Councillor Peterson.
Just a question to ask that if we were personally interested just in our own breakdown, who should be approached to find out where that was, just for us personally, and also to ask if we, obviously there's a $60,000 conference budget, but this is rolled into other expenses. Can we, hear that out and make them separate?
Through Mr. Chair, I can get that for you, absolutely.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Oh, my question was the same. I'd be very curious on the breakdown.
Yeah, I'll get those for councillors, circulate them.
Thank you.
Through Ms. Davis ASAP.
There being no other speakers, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried. I'll move on to 5.6, which is strategic policy reviews.
I'll move.
Moved by Councillor Mallard. Seconded by Councillor Evans. Any speakers? Councillor Peterson.
Just two questions on STO3 on page 49. The 60,000 conference, is that registrations, or is that also the cost of accommodation, meals and transport for attendees?
That's all of the above, Councillor.
And the other question was 1.6.7, 6.8, also on page 49, about the sort of report for that. And I wanted, as I spoke earlier today, maybe we could have a bit of a pro forma of what that wants to look like in the attempt to make it a useful thing and not just, of work's sake.
Mr. Chair, I could circulate something to councillors, if that's useful. Absolutely.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I'm supporting the motion. I just do have a question. I'm wondering whether staff could get back to us in the meantime. Just relating to the code of conduct, I'm just wondering whether it needs to be updated to include any use of social media of council staff, councillors, committee members, those sorts of things. I've gone through it and I may be missing it in the draft, but I couldn't find anything in there.
I can answer that question through you, Mr. Mayor. So the Code of Conduct doesn't actually reference the social media or the media policy. We do have another strategic policy that will come to council, which is around our communications and engagement policy. And within that policy, we have a model code that's been delivered from the Office of Local Government around how we actually manage social media and traditional media, both as in council communication channels and also councillors' private, social media channels. So that's where that information would sit within that strategic policy. We do have overall behaviours that we need to comply with, though, in the Code of Conduct. So in the policy, it lists around certain behaviours that are required by councillors and staff.
Sorry, just to follow up on that. This pending policy you're talking about, will it apply to community committee members as well? Because I know the Code of Conduct is referenced when we start new committees, all committee members sign on to it. But if it's not mentioning, behaviour on social media or that sort of behaviour, I think they need to be covered in this new policy. Would be my.
We can take that as some feedback to consider in that policy and bring it back to council.
Thank you.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Yeah, I've got a question about the Code of Conduct, but it might be better in closed. Is that okay? Can we talk about it in the closed session?
Through Mr. Absolutely. I was just wondering, Director, would this be worth a forum with councillors? Its own Code of Conduct, such a vexed issue to discuss on the run. I'm no expert. It's a big policy. Do you think in a week or two, a bit of a session might be the go?
Absolutely. So we have a briefing, I believe, scheduled for the 11th of November, where we wanted to go through all of the strategic policies with councillors whilst they're on exhibition, so that you have that opportunity to deep dive and then provide comment or feedback during that exhibition period.
Oh, good. Excellent. Thank you.
Would that...
But we can chat in closed, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, just a general question.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Great. I'll need to move that we go into closed.
That way.
It's Councillor Whitten, seconded. Thanks, Councillor Greenhalgh. All in favour? Against? Carried. The Chief Executive Officer will advise the Council if any written submissions have been received relating to any item advertised for consideration by closed meeting of Orange City Council.
No such written submissions have been received.
In accordance with the Local Government Act 1993 and the Local Government General Regulation 2005, in the opinion of the Chief Executive Officer, the following business of its kind as referred to in section 10A/2 of the Act and should be dealt with in confidential session of the council meeting closed to the press and the public. The following items are classified confidential under provision of section 10A2 of the Local Government Act 1993, which permits the meeting to be closed to the public for business relating to the following sections. 6.1 minutes of the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee meeting, 23rd of August 2022, section F, matters affecting the security of council, councillors, council staff and council property. 6.2, land matter and old sale yard subdivision. Section D, commercial information of a confidential nature that would be, if disclosed, prejudice the commercial position of the person who supplied it. 6.4, lease Endeavour Oval to Emus Rugby Club. Section C, information that would be, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the council is conducting or proposes to conduct business. 6.5, submission redactions, 1st November 2022. Section E, information that would be, if disclosed, prejudice the maintenance of law.